Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Hi, everyone. I want to remind everyone right away today that, as many of you know if you've been listening to the show, before I get out of bed every morning, before I let my feet touch the ground, I sit on the edge of the bed and I say a quick prayer. I say, Jesus, please inspire me all day long today. Please give me ideas all day long so that I notice you talking to my spirit, talking to my soul, so I feel your companionship with me all day in all of the minutia, all of the tiny things during my life, so that I'm always mindful of you. And I encourage everybody to do that, because what happens is God answers that prayer as he promised in the Bible, in the book of Matthew, chapter 7. If you read Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, very easy to remember. It's chapter 7, and it's line number, verse number 7. So you can't forget 7 and 7. In the book of Matthew 7:7, you'll see that Jesus promises if you're asking him for blessings and you're asking him for things, you're going to receive them. And it's that simple, really, because he's God and he can do anything he wants. And now I'm going to show you how God really did bless me on a particular day by showing me that he was present with me during all of the minutia, all of the tiny things happening in my life. And so I was feeling blessed, even though I was doing some tiny, insignificant things. I felt Jesus was right there with me. So here's an example of how God is functioning with us and near us all day long. I had a friend called me and told me that they noticed today that they used their credit card, I guess during the months, and the total spending on their credit card was $777 even, exactly 777. That's God's holy number. So that was one tiny thing that happened in my day, but I saw the number 3 sevens. And then they told me that they noticed that in their checkbook, they had sent out checks that people had not yet cashed, and she added them up, and the amount of money that people had not cashed of the checks she had given them was $555. That's 555. Now, you may know by listening to our shows, 555 means the presence of God, and 777 means the permission or the power of God. So those two numbers are significant in history. So already we're being reminded about God. And my friend was telling me because they know that I'm into numbers and numbers means a lot to me. Well, that was that day. On the next day, I said the same prayer when I got up that morning before I put my feet on the ground. God, please inspire me and give me ideas all day long. Show me that you're next to me. Show me that you're with me. So on the next day, an amazing thing happened. I went to log on to my computer to pay some bills online by using the computer. And I have a system with my bank where they give me a new passcode for safety and security. And the safety code they gave me was a number that ended in the number 555. So just like my friend yesterday reminded me of the 3 5s that means the presence of God, here I am logging onto my bank, and just happens to be a coincidence. The logon number they gave me, because it changes every time, it had 3 5s at the end of the number. And then I paid my bills. I had a bunch of bills that didn't have to be paid during the month, and I paid them at one time. I finished paying my bills, and my bills came out to $777. Now, this is really amazing. I know you probably should be sitting out there thinking, this is impossible. This can't be happening. His friend calls in the prior day, and they have 777 and 555, and they're doing their banking business. And now he's telling us that he's got 555 and 777 on this next day, and he's doing his banking business. All right, I don't blame you for saying that, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you ask God to inspire you all day long, he does things like this. And I've been seeing things like this for 54 years, and that's why we started this show. It's to convince people who are not convinced that God does get involved to this degree. I mean, he knew my friend was going to have that experience, and he inspired them to call me because he knew my numbers were going to be coming out. Well, the story's not done yet, because the next week I logged on to pay bills again, and now the passcode to get in this week was not the 3 5s like the prior week. It was 3 4s, and 3 4s is the number that reminds us of the Holy Blessed Mother of Jesus, the Blessed Virgin Mary. And after I finished my banking business for the day, I got ready to go shopping. It was the day to go shopping. I pulled out of my driveway to go shopping, and I found out that the car in front of me, when we stopped at the next stop sign, the car in front of me had a license plate number 555. So I didn't match my friend with banking numbers on this last mention of miraculous numbers, but I pulled out of my driveway to go shopping at the right moment to be behind a car with a license plate number 555. Now, I know some of you don't care about all of this minutia, but I'm hoping some of you will notice that if you're not noticing God at all anywhere, you can look into these smaller cases, smaller things that you're doing in life, and you probably notice God in the minutia. And I dare say that's more impressive, really, because if you notice God in the huge things, the gigantic things in your life, you're probably going to notice them 3 or 4 times if you're looking for gigantic things. But if you look for God being present in your thoughts and in your ideas and the things you're doing all day long, in the tiny, small things, like when you're cooking and you notice you have just enough salt for the recipe you're following, or you're cooking and you have just enough sugar, or you have just enough eggs. You notice a lot of minutia like that, where things are precisely on time, precisely correct. That's where you'll notice God's intervention in your life, and he's trying to show you by his perfection that where these tiny things are lining up to be perfectly in order, and they're very minor, very small, very inconsequential, that's to convince you how close he is to every tiny thing you're doing. And why does he do that? Because when you get to the big things in your life, you're going to have a lot of peace, because you see him in all the small things of your life constantly all day long for 10 days in a row, and then some big thing comes up, like your car needs to get repaired and you need to get a ride, and you're going to be without a car for 3 or 4 days, so now you got something that's troubling you. Well, he's going to be there in that event as well, and you're going to be confident going through it because he was with you when you ran out of sugar or you ran out of eggs and you were trying to bake a cake. So God bless you all to notice God is with you in all of the minutia in your life. And by the way, if God is with you in all of the tiny minutiae of your life, you're going to notice tons of miracles you wouldn't notice otherwise. And that's how you wind up seeing 50,000 miracles in a lifetime, because you're looking at all the small, tiny things as well as the big things, not just the huge miracles. And that's what minutia means. Minutia means the tiny, small aspects, and usually things we don't pay any attention to otherwise. Our next sharing is a great sharing to remind us and convince us that God lives with and dwells with every single human being. Remember, in the Garden of Eden, God created man from the earth. He picks up some clay and he forms man into his image, which means it was a statue. And then the Bible says God breathed his breath of life into the statue, and the statue became a living being. It doesn't say it exactly with those words, but that's what it means. God made his image, which is a statue, and then he breathed his spirit into it, and it became a living being. So all of us living beings have the Spirit of God within us. And this sharing we got for this week is from someone who's an elderly gentleman, and he shares with us how he was very stressed about some decisions he had to be making. His wife had passed away, so he lives alone, and he had some stressful things, so he prayed about what to do. He got inspired to call one of his children and to bounce off of them. And he said to them, "I'm calling to bounce some things off of you, and I prayed that God will bless you and give me some inspiration from our discussions." And that's what he did. He prayed for his child to be inspired by God. And he says that he asked several things and shared several options of what he was going to be doing. And he got brilliant, profound wisdom from one of his children. He knows the child as a human being, and he knows that the Spirit of God was speaking through them by what they said, because some of the things their child said, only God really fully understood. And he got great answers. So I've recommended this in some of the past shows. Talk to other people, your friends or your ministers or the professional people in your life. But before you ask for advice, first pray to God that they will be blessed. So whoever you're going to ask advice of, that's fine. But remember, before you ask anybody for advice, pray for them first, that God will bless them with his Spirit that lives in them, and that God will speak to you from them. And the kings in the Old Testament, they had prophets, they had ministers, they had priests. The kings and queens had advisors, and these people were taken care of by them and fed and housed by them. But these people were supposed to stay in prayer to get God's wisdom, to give the kings and queens the wisdom of God. And so that's what we're doing. It's something that's been around for history. You should be able to go to a friend, ask for advice, and ask God to speak through them. As a matter of fact, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7 or 23, I'm not sure which one right now, but chapter 7 or chapter 23 of Jeremiah, God says in Scripture that each one of you should be able to say to your neighbor, "What did God tell you?" In other words, you can ask your neighbors, "What did God tell you?" And if you want to treat your neighbor or your relatives as a prophet and go to them and say, I have some problems, I prayed that God will bless you, so I want to ask your advice. That's an excellent way to get advice from God. It doesn't mean you're going to do exactly what you hear, but you're going to get some wisdom from God, and it'll help you to pray some more about it and make some great decisions. I guess what I should say, because I owe you this statement, if you've never done this before, ask God to bless someone and then go to them for advice, then you don't know what it's like. But if you try it a couple of times, you'll see that it works. God bless you all. I will talk to you again next week. Keep asking God what to do, and you'll be blessed every day, I'm sure.